When we go to write the equation for a circle, we use the following. We have x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equal to r squared. All right, big pieces of information to understand. First, since we're talking about a circle, r stands for the radius. So in our circle, if the radius is 4, we're going to square it. What's 4 squared? 16. Okay, if the radius is 3, we're going to square it. What would we use? 9. If the equation says equal to 25, what is the radius? 5, because you're going to take the square root of it. Okay, so understand that your equation uses r squared. Next, the h and k. H comma k is your center of the circle. Okay, I'm going to put a little star here. Understand that when we use it in the equation, they are going to be their opposites. What that means is if the x value of the center is 2, in the equation I'm going to write x minus 2. If the x value is negative 7, I'm going to write x plus 7. And it basically goes back to this idea of when we were doing our factoring. Notice how x is the opposite, right? It says minus 5 in parentheses, but then x equals 5. Okay? So understand that we're going to use this concept of the opposite when we go to write our equation. Okay? Questions with that? All right, so now, like I said, there's another little one that I'm going to use, okay, that is going to be for specific situations. What if x was a 0, or the center of the circle was at 0, 0? What's x minus 0? X. What's y minus 0? Y. So if the center is ever the origin, you can use x squared plus y squared equal to r squared. Okay, this only works when the center is the origin. Okay? Anytime it's not at the origin, then you have to use the other. Okay? All right, so an example of this, to be able to apply it, okay? They tell me what the center is. The center is my h and k. H goes with x, k goes with y, okay? And then they tell me what the radius is. So all I'm going to do is say x minus 2, because it's a plus 2 in parentheses, squared, plus y plus 4 squared. I'm using plus 4 because the center has a negative 4. And then equals r squared. Since r is equal to 3 up here, 3 squared is 9. And I'm done. So all I'm doing is going opposite, opposite, square. Anybody freaking out at this point? We're good? Okay. So in example 2, all they're asking you to do is go the other direction. Okay. So they gave us the equation of the circle, and now I have to find the center. Well, the center is the opposite. So since it says minus 3, the center is at positive 3. Since it says plus 1, I'm going to put negative 1. My radius comes from taking the square root of the number on the other side of the equal sign. Well, there is no square root of 5, so I'm just going to write square root 5. Okay? Now, you could type in the square root of 5 into your calculator and get like 2 point something, or you could just be simple and just leave it as the square root of 5. Okay? see if you can do B and C with the people at your table. See what you come up with. All right, so it looks like most of you did really well on B. You had -6, 2, okay, and then you had a radius of 7 because of the square root of 49. On C, most of you did a good job of getting a radius of 2, but then I saw two different answers. I saw a lot of people that did -1, -2, and some people that did 0, -2, okay? Which of these is correct? What are you adding or subtracting to x? Nada, which means 0. So we're using this one, okay? So we're using the 0, -2, okay? And that's why I said, like, at some point, you might see one like this, where it says x squared plus y squared equals 36. Well, if all it says is x squared plus y squared, where's your center? The origin, because do you see how I said up here, x squared plus y squared equals r squared? Okay, so if you're not adding or subtracting anything, then your x and y's are zeros, and then you just take the square root. Okay? Questions so far? All right, so there's two other pieces that we have to deal with, and one of them is word problems, the other one is graphing. Okay? All right, so in example 3, they're giving you a couple pieces of information that you can use, and your goal is to write the equation. Okay, so if our standard equation is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equal to r squared, what did they give us that we can use? They gave us the center, so can you plug in the center? So it would be x what? Minus 5 squared plus y plus 1 squared equal to whatever r squared is going to be. Okay? And the reason why we were able to plug those numbers in, they told us what the center was. They said, hey, that's what it is. What didn't they tell us? They didn't tell us what r was. So they're going to ask you to solve for r and figure it out. Okay, so to explain what the question is talking about is I'm just going to do a little graph here. Okay, they're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1. Your center is here, and then your circle passes through the point 1, 2. Okay, so what that means is our circle is doing the following. Okay, so our objective is to figure out what the length of r is. Ideas. How could we do that? I like what you just said, Javier. Now slope tells us, how much it is, slanting. It doesn't tell us the length. Or what did you say before that? Done. We can do the Pythagorean theorem or distance formula, which is the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? So you got two options. Which route do you want to go? Pythagorean theorem. Okay. So if we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem, then all we simply have to do is be able to tell me what this length is and then what this length is. Because now you have two sides of a right triangle. Okay? So if I'm at 5, -1, how much am I going up to get to a 2? So notice my y value is going from a -1 to a 2. So what's the distance from -1 to 2? 3. So it's going up 3. If I'm going from a 5 to a 1, what's that distance? 4. If anything, you can count your tick marks if you do a good graph. Okay? So now you have a triangle with two side lengths. You can use the Pythagorean theorem and solve for r. Right? Anybody happen to know what r is? It's a Pythagorean triple. Very good. She already knows that r is going to equal 5. Now, you could do 3 squared plus 4 squared equals r squared. Okay? And you eventually get 9 plus 16 is 25 equal to r squared. Now, here's a thinking question for you. Do I need to take the square root of both sides to figure out what r is? No. And the reason is, doesn't the equation ask for what r squared is?
Yeah.
R squared is equal to 25. So guess what? I get to just plug in a 25. Now, you could take the extra step of saying r is equal to 5 and then turning around and squaring it back to 25, but that's 2 extra steps that you don't need to do. Okay? All right, to check for understanding, example number 4 is pretty much the same thing. Okay, they just give you 2 different points. See if you can do that one. All right, so distance formula is here if you need it. Okay, so you at least should have x minus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 6 quantity squared equal to r squared. Yes? All right, so a bunch of you guys got 13. How did you do it? Did you do the distance formula or what did you do?
I did the bunny hop.
The bunny hop.
Yeah, you don't even have to make the graphic. Just see what like how many does it from 2 to -1, that's 3.
Okay.
And then how many from 64 is 2.
Okay, so you went, it goes, your triangle is 3 and then 2. All right, so then you did 3 squared plus 2 squared equals r squared. And you got 9 plus 4 is 13. And so now this changes to a 13. Very good. Okay, now you can go and figure out what r is. R is the square root of 13, but then you got to turn around and square it to get back to the 13 for the equation. Okay, I like the bunny hop idea. Love it. Okay, if you plugged in up here into our distance formula, you would have gotten the square root of 13 and then just square it. Yeah, but essentially the bunny hop thing is the distance formula. So just stick with what you're doing. You're doing fine. Okay. All right. Last part deals with the idea of graphing. Okay. So in order to be able to graph, you have to understand the equation really well. And in order to help with that, always identify your individual pieces. Okay. So based upon the equation that you see here, where is the center? -2, comma 3. So I'm going to go to -2, comma 3, and I'm going to plot a point. Okay? That represents the center. Okay? Next, what's the radius if the equation says equal to 9?
3.
Okay, so I heard that the radius is equal to 3 because the square root of 9 is 3. Okay? Now, once you know what the center and the radius are, graph the center, done. Count off the radius in each direction, and what I mean by that is go down 3, up 3, right 3, left 3, from the center. And now you've got 4 points in which to try and make a circle. Don't make a diamond, please, because it's a circle, so try and curve it through the 4 points that you created. So all you're doing is from the center, you're going north 3, west 3, south 3, east 3. Okay? Because that's what your radius is. And then that gives you enough points to at least give you a good idea of where the center is, or the circle is. That's it. Okay? All right, so example 6. Okay? So where is our center? Okay, so understand that it's at -5, 2. So we go to -5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Okay? And then what's r equal to? 4. So I'm going to go west 4, north 4, east 4, south 4. And that gives me 4 points in which to try and graph the curve for my circle. Okay? Again, just try and make it as much of a circle as possible. Don't do a straight line between the 4 points and give me a diamond. Okay? If it doesn't go through, like mine didn't go through exactly, I'll be fine as long as I see that you have the points there. Okay? All right, so to check for understanding, all we're gonna do is go the opposite direction. This time they graphed it for you, and now you have to come up with the equation. So do the same thing. Tell me where the center is. Tell me what the radius is. Where's the center? 5,0, Charlie says. What do you guys say? Okay? It looks like the center is at 5,0. I agree. Okay? What's the radius? Don't say 2. 10. Why is it 10? Correct. 5, 10. It's going, each square represents 5, so the radius is 10. So now when we go to write our equation for the circle, x minus 5 squared plus, do we have to write y minus 0, or can we just simply write y squared? So we can just make it simple and just go y squared equal to, not 10,
20.
not 20, 100, because it has to be 10 squared. Okay? So, little tiny mistakes that people make on the quiz. Number 1, they forget the squares. They forget to put the little tiny little 2's. Okay? They forget to square the radius. Or they forget the opposites. Okay? So it's you know, little pieces that you have to be aware of. Question?
On the quiz, is the scale of the graphs going to be like that? Is going to be different scales?
Could be. So you got to pay attention to that. Okay? All right. We'll stop there. Don't worry about number 8. We can come back to number 8 for review tomorrow. Okay?